You have never been more reachable. Right now, you could contact hundreds of people in seconds. You have more ways to communicate than any human who has ever lived. You carry a device that connects you to virtually everyone you have ever known and millions of people you have never met. By every measurable standard of connectivity, you are living in the most socially abundant era in human history. And yet, something in you recognizes this as a lie. Not the connectivity. That part is real. The lie is that connectivity and connection are the same thing. They are not. And the gap between them is where the loneliness lives. Loneliness is not new, but its scale is. Researcher Vivek Murthy, who served as Surgeon General of the United States, declared loneliness a public health epidemic in a landmark 2023 advisory, noting that approximately half of American adults report measurable levels of loneliness. Similar patterns have been documented across the United Kingdom, Australia, Japan, and most of the developed world. This is not a fringe experience. This is the majority experience of modern life, hiding in plain sight behind full social media feeds and packed notification bars. To understand why, you have to understand what your brain actually needs from other people, and how different that is from what modern social life actually provides. Your brain evolved inside groups, small, stable, face-to-face groups of roughly 50 to 150 people, the number Robin Dunbar proposed as the natural cognitive limit of meaningful human relationships. These were not acquaintances. These were people who knew your history, your struggles, your capabilities, and your failures. People who had seen you at your worst and stayed. People whose survival was entangled with yours and who felt that entanglement as a lived reality rather than a social nicety. The relationships were not chosen from abundance. They were forged through proximity, necessity, and shared experience over years and decades. What your brain needs from connection is not contact. It is something much more specific. It needs to feel known. Not just seen, known. The difference matters enormously. Being seen is having someone look at you. Being known is having someone understand what they are looking at. One can happen in a fraction of a second. The other takes years. Modern social life is extraordinarily good at being seen. It is extraordinarily poor at being known. Think about what a typical social media interaction actually involves. You share a carefully selected version of yourself, an image, a thought, a moment, and others respond to that version. They respond to the presentation, not the person. The presentation is designed, consciously or not, to be likable, to minimize the difficult parts, to show the version of you that fits most comfortably into the expectations of the audience. And the responses that come back, the likes, the comments, the shares, buffan exatascons, are responses to the performance, not the reality. You can receive thousands of responses and feel more alone than if you had received none, because the part of you that needed to be known was never in the room. This is not social media's fault, exactly. It is a mismatch. The same mismatch your ancient hardware runs into everywhere in modern life. A brain built for depth, living in a world optimized for breadth. And the breadth is enormous. The average person now manages hundreds of social connections across multiple platforms, each one requiring maintenance, each one producing a low-level ambient awareness of what others are doing and how they are doing relative to you. Social psychologist Sherry Turkle, who has spent decades studying the relationship between technology and human connection, described this condition as being alone together, perpetually in contact, rarely in connection. The quantity of social input has never been higher. The quality of it has rarely felt lower. There is a specific mechanism behind why this hurts. Your brain has a social monitoring system that is always running, always tracking the quality of your social bonds, always assessing whether you are genuinely embedded in a group that knows and values you. Neuroscientist John Cacioppo, who dedicated much of his career to understanding loneliness, found that this monitoring system does not respond to the quantity of social contact. It responds to the perceived quality of it. You can be surrounded by people and have the system register danger. You can be physically alone and have the system register safety. What the system is tracking is not presence, but genuine mutual understanding. The sense that you are known, that you matter to specific others in a specific way, that your absence would be noticed and felt. When that signal is absent, the loneliness system activates. And Cacioppo's research showed that chronic loneliness, the long-term absence of that signal, is not just emotionally painful. It is physiologically dangerous. Chronically lonely people show elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep, impaired immune function, accelerated cognitive decline, and significantly higher rates of cardiovascular disease. The health impact of loneliness is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Social disconnection is not a feeling problem. It is a body problem. But here is the part that makes it worse. Loneliness is self-reinforcing. The same research showed that when the loneliness monitoring system is chronically activated, it changes how you perceive social situations. It makes you more likely to read neutral expressions as hostile, more likely to interpret ambiguous social signals as rejection, more likely to pull back from social situations preemptively to protect yourself from the rejection you have come to expect. This is an ancient protective mechanism. If the group is unsafe, withdraw before you get hurt. Operating in a modern environment where the group is not unsafe, just shallow, the protection becomes the problem. The withdrawal deepens the isolation. The isolation confirms the fear. The fear justifies more withdrawal. You have probably felt this loop. The nights when connection feels impossible not because no one is available, but because reaching out feels pointless. The social events you attend and leave feeling more alone than before you arrived. The conversations that stay on the surface because going deeper feels too risky, because you no longer know if the depth would be met. None of this is weakness. All of it is the ancient social brain navigating conditions it was never designed for. There is another layer. Modern life has quietly dismantled most of the structures that used to produce deep connection automatically. For most of human history, connection was not a choice. It was the inevitable byproduct of shared physical space over time. You lived near the same people for years. You worked alongside them. You worshipped or celebrated or grieved with them in person. Connection happened as a side effect of proximity and shared necessity. You did not have to schedule it. You did not have to maintain it intentionally. It emerged from the texture of daily life. Modern life has stripped most of that texture away. We are more geographically mobile than any generation before us, moving away from families and communities every few years for work or opportunity. We work in open-plan offices where proximity produces awareness, but not intimacy. We live in cities surrounded by strangers we pass daily and never speak to. We have replaced the shared rituals, the meals, the ceremonies, the communal labor, with individual experiences consumed in parallel. And when we do connect, we often do it through screens that filter out the most connection-rich information. body language, eye contact, physical presence, the particular quality of being in the same room as another person breathing the same air. What the research consistently shows is that the depth of connection depends heavily on self-disclosure, the willingness to share something real and vulnerable about yourself, and on the reciprocal experience of being received without judgment. Arthur Aron's famous research on interpersonal closeness showed that pairs of strangers who answered a series of increasingly personal questions for 45 minutes reported feeling significantly closer to each other than pairs who engaged in normal small talk for the same amount of time. Not because the questions were magic, because the questions created the conditions for mutual vulnerability and genuine knowing. Two people agreed, temporarily, to stop performing and start being real with each other, and closeness followed almost immediately. The implication is uncomfortable because it places the responsibility partly on you, not because you are the cause of your loneliness. The structural conditions of modern life have done most of that work, but because the path out runs through something your brain will resist when the loneliness monitoring system is activated. It runs through vulnerability, through the risk of reaching deeper in conversations that have been staying shallow, through investing in fewer relationships more fully rather than maintaining many relationships lightly, through tolerating the discomfort of being known, which is always, at some level, the discomfort of being seen imperfectly and hoping you are accepted anyway. This is harder than it sounds. Not because vulnerability is unnatural, because modern life has created conditions where it feels unnecessary and risky at the same time. Unnecessary because contact is so abundant that going deeper with any individual seems optional. Risky because the social monitoring system, when lonely, is primed to expect rejection. But the research is clear. The people who report the lowest levels of loneliness are not the people with the most connections. They are the people with a small number of relationships, characterized by genuine mutual knowing. 3 or 4 people who actually know them, who have seen the difficult parts, who would notice the absence. That is enough. That has always been enough. The brain was not built to feel known by hundreds of people. It was built to feel known by a handful. And the extraordinary abundance of modern social life has made that handful harder to find, not easier. You have never been more reachable. But being reachable was never the point. The point was always to be known, and that slow, effortful, vulnerable, irreplaceable is the one thing no platform has ever been able to scale.